Nearly 5 years ago, Volvo finally gave us a fully redesigned version of their best-selling vehicle, the compact XC60 SUV. Now, at the same time, Volvo also dipped their toes into the electrified era with the XC60 T8, a plug-in hybrid that offered nearly 400 horsepower and about 18 miles of electric-only range. Now, since then, the competition has gotten more and more competitive, especially when it comes to electrified vehicles, which is why for 2023, I'm standing by the refreshed Volvo XC60 Recharge. They've dropped the T8 name from the nomenclature, and they've also dropped in a larger 18.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack, promising up to 35 miles of range and 455 horsepower. So if you guys have had your eye on an XC60 with a plug and you wanted something that was a little bit more competitive in terms of range and performance, how does the refreshed XC60 Recharge stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling of this model, let me first show you guys what's underneath the hood, because the Recharge model is designed to be the flagship of the XC60 family in terms of power and in terms of efficiency. Now, you can see underneath this hood, you're going to find a combination of a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder with an electric motor at the back. Volvo has also seriously beefed up the power output of that rear electric motor, and the battery pack, which I mentioned earlier, is 18.8 kilowatts, or about 15 of that is usable. Now, the power outputs for just the gas engine, remember this is a turbo 4-cylinder on its own, made it to an 8-speed automatic. A stepped automatic makes about 313 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Now, when you add that rear electric motor, which adds in around 143 horsepower and 228 pound-feet of torque, the total combined figure is 455 horsepower and 523 pound-feet of torque. Now, I also want you guys to notate the electric motor used to only have about 87 horsepower. Now it makes 143, which has been significantly improved. Still not quite as much as the leader for me at the moment, which is the Lexus NX450h Plus, which has around 180 horsepower on its own. But we'll talk about that during the driving scene. Volvo says the performance of this car, when you have it in power mode, should be 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. Closer to 4.5 seconds. We'll test that out now that we have our 0 to 60 testing equipment. And like I mentioned earlier, this will do about 35 miles on a full charge when you have this thing plugged in and you drive it like an electric vehicle. Fuel economy, on just the gas engine alone, Volvo says you'll get about 28 mpg combined. So not bad fuel economy numbers, but also not quite class leading. This car does have a towing ability. You can tow up to 3,500 pounds, and as this one sits, it weighs in at around 4,700 pounds. But let's go ahead and close this hood. And I want to show you guys over here on the driver's side fender, this is where you're going to find the charge port door. This car has an onboard 3.6 kilowatt charger, which means you can level 2 fast charge this vehicle or quicker charge this vehicle in about 4.5 to 5 hours. That is slower versus something like the Lexus, which can do it in about half that time because of its quicker 6.6 kilowatt onboard charger. So I was surprised that Volvo didn't upgrade the charger. But remember, if you do it to a level 1, it's going to take about 12 hours anyways. Now, looking at the front fascia of this car, you can see this model here is painted in silver with the bright package. You can also get a dark package along with a Polestar engineered that will remove the chrome and replace it with black accents. You can see all of the Recharge models are going to come with their Thor's Hammer full LED headlights. You have LED low and high beams, LED turn signal, LED daytime running lights. No fog lights. Volvo has removed that on this particular trim. You can see there's more of the chrome with some functional air vents. The grille, Volvo updated a couple of years ago with their newest Volvo logo. With, again, the chrome accents. I would definitely like to see this car as the Polestar engineered or with the dark accents painted in white. This particular color combination to me is just a little bit too plain Jane. It's a little bit more conservative, but again, Volvo offers several different styling cues to make this car stand out a little bit more and make it a little bit sportier. Now, looking at the wheels, these are the standard factory 20-inch wheels you get with this particular Ultimate trim. You can see they're kind of a two-spoke, or they're a twin spoke with a two-tone machine and black inner spoke design. They're riding on two 55/45 R20 tires. Volvo also offers a 21-inch wheel and a smaller 19-inch wheel on other trims, or even an 18-inch wheel. This model here also comes with their air suspension, 4-corner air suspension, which is a $1,500 upcharge, which can easily raise the ground clearance by an inch if you guys have it in its off-road mode. Now, at 185 inches long and a 112.2-inch long wheelbase, this is pretty much right-sized for the compact luxury SUV space. This car, the design's been around for a few years now, and I still think that it looks good. You can see the window trim is chrome. You have a panoramic glass roof with the silver finished roof rails. You have integrated turn signal mirrors, which again, you can kind of get this blacked out if you guys go for the dark trim. You can see the fuel tank doors over there on the driver or the passenger side rear. And then overall from the back, you can see the styling is pretty much the same. You have these full LED taillights, which are signature to a lot of Volvo models. They spell out Volvo on the back, and then there's a T8 all-wheel drive recharge badge there, which the recharge is the new part of the name this year. And then you can see no visible exhaust tips. Volvo's kind of going away with that, considering where their stance is on going completely electric. Now, opening up the trunk area, you can see this model here has about 23 cubic feet of trunk space with the seats up. You can see if you look underneath here, there is some good storage. The battery pack is back here, or the 12-volt battery is back here, along with a mobile charger. If you fold down those seats, it will expand out the cargo to around 63 cubic feet, which is about 10 to 15 more than most of its competitors. So moving on to the interior of this 2023 XC60 T8 Recharge, let me first show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current key that Volvo introduced way back in 2015 on the XC90. They have kind of cheaped out on the materials for the key. They used to kind of wrap this in the same leather material or fabric material as the interior. Now it's just covered in a black plastic. It's got the buttons on the side for lock, unlock, trunk, and then there's the panic release button or the panic button. You should be also able to access this phone through your smartphone, but I don't have access to the Volvo app at this time. Now, opening up the door, you can see, first of all, very conventional door handles. Just touch that, that locks the door. It's got the power folding mirrors that you can adjust to fold in or fold out. And then looking at the interior, you can see this is a really interesting fabric material. It's actually a recycled wool material. Volvo says it's 30% wool, 70% a recycled material. This is actually called Midnight Zinc. It's a really cool material that kind of reminds me of jeans. These seats also adjust in like 12 different ways with a lumbar adjustment. And you also get two-person memory on both the driver and the front passenger side. These are also 3-level heated with a heated steering wheel. However, if you want cooled seats, you can't get it on this wool material. And if you want massaging seats, you have to go for the Nappa leather. So I personally would go for that just because I like the massaging function. With this material, you don't really need the cooled function because this stays a lot cooler in the heat and stays a lot warmer in the cold. Now, looking at the door panel, you can see my tester has the $3,200 Bowers & Wilkins premium sound, which sounds incredible. I'm not sure it's worth the $3,000 price tag, but if you're an audiophile, you're gonna love that. You can see the door panel has a soft touch injection molded plastic, more of that wool material, and then a leather stitched area over the armrest. The window controls feel pretty high quality, typical Volvo. These are one touch for all four, along with the power mirrors. Down here, you can see it's even padded, which is nice. And then with the air suspension, this car actually lowers to help you get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier, which is again, very nice. Now getting in and shutting the door has a solid sounding thunk. This is built off of the scalable product architecture that they introduced a couple of years ago. And then the rest of this interior, you can see, looks pretty familiar. Now to start the car up, there's a little rotating knob here. You just turn that over to the right with your foot on the brake. And then the vehicle comes to life. You can see no traditional starter noise because this is a plug-in hybrid. And you can see the instrument panel here was redesigned for 2022 and a half. You can see there's a 12.5-inch display here, which you can kind of customize in the sense that you can essentially just turn off the map display in the center on or off. Although right now it's working, there were several instances where that would not turn on the map when I pushed this button right here. So that's kind of like a small little software glitch, which it's happened to be working now. There's a 9-inch touchscreen over here. This is running their new Android-based operating system. You can see it now has CarPlay, but it's a wired connection CarPlay. Or you can also log into your Google account and you can basically use this as an extension of your phone. This system is definitely an improvement over Sensus Connect, but I still think the screen is starting to look a little bit small. The software has improved. The Google voice commands work pretty well, but again, it just doesn't have the same kind of wow factor that it used to have back in 2018. Now in terms of the materials here, you can see there's genuine stitching over the top part of the dash. Love this Art Deco wood material here with the aluminum accents. It's padded here, it's padded, sort of padded over here, padded down here, which is nice. My tester, being an Ultimate trim, also has the heads-up display. And then you can see here for the steering wheel, it's a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment, no paddles on the wheel. And then the horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny or embarrassing like on some competitors that I've tested. The center console you can see over here, this being the Ultimate trim, has the Orifice crystal shifter. This controls the 8-speed automatic. Basically, if you want to put it into reverse, you have to click up twice to go into reverse. You can see there's your backup camera with the parking sensors. You can also tap that and go to a 360 view. This view is useful, but it's not quite as useful as some of the other competitors that I've seen. The graphics also aren't quite as good. To go into drive, you have to kick it back twice to go into drive. Push B to go into park. You can see the piano black plastic trim is showing a lot of fingerprints, smudges, and dust everywhere. You also have a wireless phone charging pad right here, which is definitely nice. You have a little bit of a 12 volt over there. You have your volume knob over here. And then you can see here, this is the way the home screen looks for the display. You can also kind of swipe over and change a couple of these widgets. You can also push that to show all your different apps. And then you can also slide this down to go into a couple of settings there, but the actual settings button is over here. This is where you're gonna adjust your drive mode. There used to be a drive mode selector here. Now Volvo has moved it to the screen, which I don't love. You can also tell it what to do with the battery charge. You can adjust your driver assistance. You can change the steering feel, the air suspension, stuff like that. So that's all really cool stuff, but I really don't like how Volvo has moved a lot of it into the screen, where you used to have some controls over here. There's looks like you can see there was space for it once here. This is your electronic parking brake. You can see padded armrests over here. There's a center console with 2 USB-C charging ports. That's where you find the USB plug to plug in your smartphone. And then, like I mentioned earlier, these seats look great. They feel great. They're comfortable and supportive, but I probably would go for the leather just to get the massaging seat option. Over here, you can see you have a frameless rear view mirror, which is nice. You have LED lighting or map lighting along with LED lighting in the cabin, although Volvo doesn't allow you to change the color of it, just the intensity. And then you can see over here, it's got a large panoramic glass sunroof, which you can also open up, which is nice. And then there's also a big glove box over here, which is damped and lined with felt. So overall, in terms of storage, there's plenty of that in the XC60. It's got a great sound system. It's got great interior sight lines and quality of the materials. You're just going to be paying a pretty penny, of course, to get this fully loaded version. Looking at the back seat, the XC60 Recharge definitely has a usable back seat. You have around 38 inches of legroom back here, and then you can see the rear seat also has the same lovely wool material in midnight zinc as the front. Materials back here are also high quality soft touch, padded area over here with this really sturdy feeling aluminum or metal accented door handle. Now getting back here, you can see the rear seat has around 38 inches of legroom, like I mentioned. And when I get back here and shut the door, somebody like my height, 5'7", I can easily get comfortable. There's also a pretty good knee space over here. This area right here, however, you notice has a very large hump, and that's because the battery pack actually is mounted underneath here in the center spine of the vehicle. It's an interesting location, which does eat up space for the center passenger, but it's nice that the floor and the cargo area is not affected. You have 3 level heated seats back here, which is nice. A little bit of a storage shelf here, and then you'll have 2 USB-C charging ports, which is nice. These seats, you can see, have an armrest that fold down. If you're looking for cup holders, they pop out over here. And then if you're looking to adjust the seat, sadly they don't fold or they don't recline, but if you push this button over here, you can see this does allow the seat to kind of fold down, and it does give you a relatively flat load floor along with a pass-through here in the center if you have longer items, but you need to actually carry passengers. But overall, the rear seat is definitely nice. This is about on par with the Lexus NX. I do like how the rear seat air vents are up here on the pillars, and then you have a nice view of the panoramic roof, which technically you can't get a pano roof on the plug-in hybrid version of the Lexus. So as most of you guys know, Volvo is on a pretty ambitious target to make all of their vehicles electric or electrified by the year 2025 or 2030. And the Volvo XC60 is the company's best-selling model. So now we are back in the XC60 Recharge. It's been renamed from T8 plug-in hybrid from a few years ago because earlier this year, Volvo updated the battery pack. So they now call this the extended range battery pack because we have an 18.8 kilowatt hour battery pack. We have a beefed up electric motor at the back, now delivering 455 horsepower and 523 pound-feet of torque. I had a chance to drive this car briefly out in Palm Springs, but now that I have the car for a full week, I want to put it through my battery of testing. And the first thing I want to retest is the 0 to 60 performance. Volvo, I believe, claims 4.5 seconds or 4.9 seconds, but let's go ahead and see what we can get. I have the car in power mode right now. We're just going to brake torque it. Ooh, this thing feels fast. Ooh, this thing feels quick. 4.47 seconds. Wow, so just a tick under 4.5 seconds. This makes it one of the quickest accelerating luxury PHEVs in the segment. Now, the segment consists of primarily now is the Lexus NX 450h Plus, this car, and the Audi Q5 plug-in hybrid. BMW dropped the X3 plug-in hybrid a couple years ago, and Mercedes doesn't have a plug-in hybrid for now of the GLC, at least here in America. But this is definitely fast. This car, to me, should have been the vehicle that Volvo launched back in 2018, but back then the rear electric motor just wasn't strong enough and it didn't have enough electric only range. Now they've really rectified that, and it's very impressive. The performance in this car is almost unnecessary. You don't really need it to be this fast, but it is nice that it is this quick. We'll try it one more time here. Ooh, didn't brake torque it this time, but you really feel the front tires actually spin. 4.75 seconds there, and that's with it going slightly more uphill. So again, incredible speed, and compared to the previous smaller battery pack, this is like at least a half a second faster. So Volvo, bravo on the acceleration part. Almost unnecessarily fast, but it's nice that it's there. Now, the one change that they made this year, or for the refresh model, is they got rid of the drive mode selector in this car. So now I have to go into the screen here and go to driving. I've had the car in power mode to show you guys the maximum 0 to 60. Now I'm gonna go to pure mode. Now when I go to pure mode, this is where the car turns off the gas engine. It's going to try to perform more like an electric vehicle. It's gonna drive purely like an EV until you literally go past the click point in the accelerator pedal, and that's what will essentially give you maximum acceleration. It'll wake up the gas engine. But in this mode here, Volvo says you can go up to 35 miles on a full charge. In my week's worth of testing, I actually have been able to show around 45 miles on a full charge. So that's very impressive. And it speaks to the efficiency of this vehicle and how usable the electric range is. This is right on par with the current leader, which is the Lexus NX 450h Plus, which is again based on the RAV4 Prime powertrain. And unlike the old T8 model, I put my foot down here. If I don't go past the click point, this actually has enough power and torque to get me where I need to go in pure electric mode. There's no noise, because you guys heard the 2-liter turbo doesn't always make the most refined noises. It's kind of a noisy, buzzy engine at times. But in this mode here, it has one pedal drive. It has regen from the B part of the transmission. In this mode here, you can see, have my foot to the floor. It's definitely a lot slower, but it's also not so unnecessarily slow that you're not going to want to drive this car in pure EV mode. Like the old model would constantly wake up the gas engine because it just didn't have enough power to actually get it up to 60 miles an hour or up to speed without waking up the gas engine. This new one definitely rectifies that. And let's go ahead and see what we can get just 0 to 60 in pure EV mode. Remember, I can't go past the click point. So my foot is to the floor, but it's not waking up the gas engine because I'm not at the click point. And it's definitely slow. Remember, only 143 horsepower in this mode, 10.2 seconds, which is actually not bad. It's about a second slower versus the electric only mode in the Lexus NX when I just have it in pure electric drive. So that's not bad. A shame that it's slower, but considering the fact that the electric motor has about 30 less horsepower than the NX, makes sense considering the power deficit. But we do have 228 pound-feet of torque, so put your foot down here, you can hear. It's actually a rear drive car when you do that. When it's in pure mode, this is actually a rear drive car because the electric motor essentially is just powering the rear wheels. So you can actually spin the tires out when you're turning from a stop, which is kind of hilarious. But again, this is where Volvo has really rectified so many of the flaws that I had with their T8 powertrain. We have the one pedal driving feel. So I lift off the accelerator pedal here, the car starts to brake. And this is something the Lexus NX doesn't have. And then I put my foot down and it just has instant power, instant torque. Obviously it's not as fast as a pure EV, but this kind of performance is going to be enough for most people for around town. And you can do it, again, in my testing, 45 miles on a full charge, which is very, very impressive. And then when you want, to drive this thing in power mode and smoke people at the light, that's gonna give you 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, which is insane. Along with getting the typical luxuries of a Volvo. The ride quality is smooth. This car has the air suspension, and it just kind of glides over bumps, even though I've got these 20-inch wheels on it. You can also upgrade to a 21-inch wheel, which I haven't had a chance to drive yet. Visibility is really good. This car has Volvo's Pro Pilot Assist system, where it'll actively keep you in the lane. It has forward collision warning, has full speed range adaptive cruise control. The visibility is good. These seats, this Midnight Zinc wool blend seat, I really like them actually. They're comfortable, they're supportive, they hug me nicely. They do lack a cooling function, but you don't necessarily need it. in this model because the seat fabric itself doesn't really get hot and it doesn't really get cold. I do have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, but if you want the massaging seats, you got to go for the Napa leather, which is probably what I would go for anyways, because I just like having the massaging seat. And then the Bowers & Wilkins stereo is really nice. I mean, the tech in this car, Volvo has upgraded, but it's still not great. For example, I don't love how the CarPlay is in this kind of, or it's not wireless still, but at least it's finally there. It has the Android-based operating system where you can give it the Google commands. It's got the 12.3-inch display here, which is all digital, although right now the map is showing in the instrument cluster. There are several times where I was driving this car and it wasn't actually showing that, which isn't great. And then if you drive this thing primarily as a hybrid, it was averaging around 27 mpg in my week's worth of testing, which is fine, but it's about 10 mpg less than what you're gonna get in the Lexus, and that car will do 0 to 60 about a second slower, but 5.5 is still not bad. But again, 4.5 gives you the bragging rights. And to be honest, the way this car drives, I kind of wish that this powertrain was in the Lexus RX 500h F-Sport Performance. I just recently drove that, and I actually said to myself, wouldn't it be better if that was a plug-in hybrid with more power? And that's essentially what this car gives you. It gives you an extra 100 horsepower almost over that Lexus, and it gives you the electric-only range. So Volvo's new recharge system, their T8 powertrain in this car and their other vehicles is very impressive, but it kind of makes the most sense in the XC60 as a luxury compact SUV. But genuinely, I'm impressed, and this now has quickly become one of my favorite luxury compact SUVs that also happens to be a plug-in hybrid. So even though the current generation Volvo XC60 has been around for a few years, the design is becoming pretty familiar, there are still plenty of reasons to choose this vehicle over its competitors. And I have to say, after spending a week with the flagship Recharge T8 model, Volvo has made some pretty amazing improvements to their plug-in hybrid powertrain. So many of the criticisms that I had from the smaller battery pack and less powerful rear electric motor have been rectified with this model. It now can drive like a pure EV vehicle as long as you don't go past that click point. Most of you are going to find the performance in EV mode to be pretty acceptable. When you switch it over to power mode and you drive this vehicle like a hybrid with a full charge, it does 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, which is almost unnecessarily fast for something like this, but it's nice to have. And in terms of the comfort aspect, this has a really roomy, spacious interior that also feels well made. The seats are comfortable, although I probably might skip the midnight zinc wool fabric and just go for the Napa leather so I can get the massaging seats. And the back seat and the trunk area, as you guys saw, is also very usable. If anything, this car's design is becoming a little bit too mundane. You're starting to see it everywhere. So it would have been nice for Volvo to show me one that had the Polestar engineering package, something a little bit sportier. But again, that's not going to be going to everyone's taste because this model here is designed to, again, to appeal to the masses. Volvo managed to sell a little over 40,000 units last year, making this easily their best-selling model, and it's actually doing pretty well in terms of its competitors. Only cars like the BMW X5 and the Mercedes-Benz GLC and the Lexus NX outsell it, but this also outsells a number of other competitors, and Volvo offers so many different models to choose from that make this car even more enticing. Now, speaking of which, if you guys are looking to purchase an XC60, they start at around $43,500 for the base T5. If you guys want the plug-in hybrid, however, it's going to cost you around $12,000 more. This car starts at around $57,000. And this is where the XC60 Recharge starts to get pretty expensive, because this model here with the Ultimate package and basically almost every option, although you could go even more expensive if you go for the Polestar engineered with everything, this model here comes in at just under $75,000. That's right, $75,000 is a stupid amount of money, and unfortunately, because this car is not built in North America, for now, it no longer qualifies for the full $7,500 federal tax credit, which is something that Volvo could have claimed earlier this year before the Inflation Reduction Act, but sadly now, because it's not built in the US or North America, it no longer qualifies for that, which makes this a little bit more expensive than some of the full electric vehicles that happen to be built in North America. And comparing this to its main competitor, the Lexus NX, that car is about $10,000 less, offers similar electric-only range, offers better efficiency, and it's not quite as quick. You also can't get it with quite some of the premium features of this car, so keep that in mind. If you remove the Bowers & Wilkins stereo, the air suspension, that will drop the price to around $70,000, which is more reasonable, but you have to step down a trim from the Ultimate to kind of get it in that $60,000 range, which I think is probably where most people are going to be playing when they're considering a vehicle like this. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Volvo XC60 T8 Recharge. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.